Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're going to finish admitting the last couple people. And we're good. All right. Welcome to Researching Research, a presentation about finding your passion in research. To begin, would you guys all mind filling out the sign-up sheet that is in the chat? Thank you. That just helps us with attendance and our end of the year report. All right. Welcome. So I'm Olivia Ishii, I'm a second year, and I do research in a medicinal chemistry lab, and I focus on ATP grasp enzymes, bioinformatics, and deep learning. And I met my PI during the molecular mixer event.
Hello, my name is Jackie Satola. I'm a fourth year studying materials science and engineering. I've done research with organometallic synthesis and organic photovoltaics, and I found those positions based off of advice from a chemistry professor and senior in my major during my freshman year.
Hey everyone, I'm Jordan Kalick. I'm a second year. I do research in the Department of Metabolism at the College of Medicine. I focus on the fundamental defects in mitochondrial metabolism, especially in the glioblastoma metabolism. I found my research using the CUR, which is Center for Undergraduate Research database, and filtering for key terms.
Hello everyone, my name is Darius Shah. I'm a third year. I do research in virology in the Department of Microbiology and Molecular Genetics, and I focus on identifying virulence factors in norovirus infection. And I found my PI through the faculty page of the EPI.
Perfect. So before we begin, we'd like to introduce the American Chemical Society. The UF Chemistry Club are the student affiliates of the American Chemical Society, which is the world's largest scientific society on a mission to improve people's lives through the transforming power of chemistry. So you don't have to be a member to participate in our events or our club. However, membership is recommended because you can get it for a reduced price as a student for $28 a year. And some of the benefits include career counseling, scholarships, access to publications, discounts on conferences and meetings, as well as blankets and mugs. If you want to join the ACS, contact your school's local chapter of the ACS to join, or if you're at UF and you need help locating them, please email us at ufchemclub@gmail.com. So to begin, we have a quick icebreaker, and today we figured we would play a couple rounds of Would You Rather. So first up, would you rather control space or time? And we should have a poll for you all to respond, but if you want to explain your logic, please feel free to interact in the chat.
So right now we have 77% responded. So if we have the last few people give their choice.
And I think that's everyone.
So,
oh, did it publish the results? No. Yeah, okay, there we go. So 67, so that's exactly 1/3. Interesting. All right, so we have another one. So would you guys rather wear clown shoes or a clown wig every day?
all right, we're about 80% of people voted. Oh, this one's a lot closer. So I'm gonna end the poll and share the results.
Irene can't deal with the giant shoes. I feel that. I'd probably trip all over the place. All right, next up, we have, would you rather have the same song play, the same song that you get to choose, play 24/7 for the rest of your life, or a random variety of songs play for the rest of your life?
All right, okay, we have really one-sided answers here. We have 2 in the minority so far. So let me share those.
It would make sense to have a random variety, but could you imagine if it was just a random variety of like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, like for the rest of your life? All right. So our next question is, would you rather have 5% of the population have telekinesis or telepathy if you're not in the 5%? Would you rather have 5% of people moving things around or listening to your thoughts?
Okay, there's some debate, and oh, we have a winner polling forward. Not gonna give away what it is. Yeah, all right, we have 86% of people voted, 91. All right.
Telekinesis. I guess you guys don't want people seeing what you're thinking. Interesting. All right.
We can steal all of your scientific ideas.
And last but not least, would you rather jump everywhere you go or only be able to walk on your hands?
All right, quick answers here. Another one-sided poll.
Looks like y'all are jumping everywhere you go. And so just a quick reminder to those of you who are new to the Zoom call, if someone could resend the sign-in link, that would be wonderful. We would really appreciate it if you all signed in. Thanks. So to begin, today's presentation will consist of a quick discussion about finding your passion and methods to do so, followed by a little brief on how to research researchers at your university. We'll be talking about REUs or research experiences for undergraduates, as well as changing paths within the field of science. And then number 5, we're lucky we have some interviews with some of UF's PIs, where they answer questions about how they found what they were passionate for in research, followed by a quick summary, and then we'll take questions. All right.
All right, hey everyone. The first thing we're going to talk about is finding your passion when it comes to research. All right, so one of the good first step would do to find your interest would be create a career plan and a career path. So a career plan would be an outline of short-term and long-term goals, where a short-term goal typically ranges from 1 month to 1 year. They could be, for example, like classes, internships, things you need to knock out in order to move on to the next step of your future. While long-term goals would be past that initial 1 year time scale. And it could be goals related to employment, graduate schools, things that you're building towards. Next, you'd want to, another great step would be finding a mentor, for example, research, faculty, just people in the industry you're might be interested in. Someone that can help guide you and help you create a plan. Since they've kind of been through similar steps, they can help you show you what they did in the past or what they think could help you individually. They can also help connect you to the right people. They're going to see your interests firsthand. It can kind of match you up personality wise. Also, going on informational interviews can be helpful. It is a meeting of someone in a career or industry of interest. These will help you learn about different careers and lead to broaden network. Even if you end up not being in that career, it's going to be just kind of potential connections you can make later on down the road. All right, another great way to find your interest would be to attend workshops, panels, and seminars of areas of potential interest. These are both networking and skill building. You're meeting people of similar mindsets and areas of interest in a natural manner that allows you to ask questions when they're expecting questions, which avoids kind of like the awkwardness of one-on-one meetings, especially in the beginning. You will also build transferable skills to these workshops and panels and learn about what skills are necessary in different fields. You can also explore opportunities outside academics, such as through internships, shadowing, research, and mentoring. You will get a taste of different fields and gain skills that can be useful later on while still exploring passions and kind of building up your resume. You can also find mentors and connections through these experiences, through the dual fold. It's also great to read research journals. So you want to pick articles of initial interest. They could be topics that you make a personal connection to, or just catch your eye while you're scrolling through. You want to see what articles researchers from university have published, since if they're nearby, that's going to be stuff you can get yourself involved in or ask questions. While you're reading, you want to take small notes about the paper, integrate those notes into your email to show that you're interested in the field of research and kind of ask them questions and show you're not just skimming. Being inquisitive and critical of the papers while you read them. You don't want to just blindly accept their conclusions. You want to ask how they get that. You want to, and then you can incorporate that into your emails. You want to read the figures carefully and extract as much info as you can. And these can be a great way to understand important relationships in the work that you potentially could be doing. And then you want to have fun while you're doing this. If this is something that you're doing in the future, it's going to be something you want to enjoy doing. It's also useful to look at faculty researchers. So you want to use university resources to find faculty members of your interest. Doing so, you could do it by using department websites and see what their faculty members are up to, such as like the biology department, chemistry department, chemical engineering. Those kind of all different departments all have web pages with their current faculties. You want to find a list. You can find a list of undergraduate research opportunities, for example, like Kerr, like I did, and filter for key terms and fields. You can find journal publications by those faculty members and see if you're interested in their methodologies. Methodologies are really important because that's how they got to their conclusions. So you want to see if you want to do those kind of analysis methods, like for example, like PCR or Western blotting, because that's going to be a bulk of the work you're doing yourself. You want to also ask professors and mentors if they know anyone that corresponds to your area of interest, since they're going to help you make those connections. And you want to see what's happening at your school to jumpstart some potential ideas. Again, those are things you're going to be able to do yourself and they're nearby. It's also important to be introspective while you're going through this finding your passion process. So you want to ask yourself key good questions to determine what you truly enjoy spending your time doing. What have been your favorite concepts covered in classes? What are your favorite hobbies to do? For example, like dancing, fishing, sports, because you might be able to turn those hobbies into research topics. Research is being done on so many different things, so you can always have multiple options. You want to find out, do you want to be part of a wet lab or a dry lab? And what is your ideal work environment? So on the next slide, I'm going to talk about what exactly a wet and a dry lab are. So a wet lab focuses on like drugs, chemicals, and other biological matter that's tested and analyzed with various liquids. So these are things you're getting kind of your hands dirty, you're working hands-on with the cells themselves or whatever tissue you're using with chemicals, breaking them down. While a dry lab focuses more on applied or computational mathematic analysis through models, simulations that are derived through computers. So an extremely growing field right now is bioinformatics, which is a subdiscipline of biology and computer science that focuses on the storage, acquisition, analysis of biological data, such as DNA and amino acids. So that's kind of through a dry lab and some aspects of wet lab, but dry lab kind of doing those analysis. And also the AI learning, computer learning is a big thing you have to try to push right now. You also want to look to the past. What activities have you done in the past that you truly enjoyed doing? They could be topics of conversation, such as school subjects, volunteering experiences, and you want to try to locate what you've done in the past and that you felt excited doing, and what did you feel fulfilled afterwards? And then you want to ask, what made you enjoy those experiences? Was it the people? Was it the subject you were doing? Was it the work you were doing itself versus like hands-on and hands-off? And then using those kind of factors, you can find what your areas of strengths and weaknesses are. Do you need a team to help you, or can you do it on your own? Obviously, most people need a team. I think you need a team for anything. So you want to ask, what are you bringing to the team? What can you talk about like during interviews or emails? What is your skill sets you're bringing? What can you develop in the future? And what have you not enjoyed at all in the past? And what made you not enjoy the experiences? So you kind of cross those off your future list. So now we're going to end off with a quick poll question. So which method of determining your passion do you find most helpful?
All right, we have about half of votes in. So there's a little bit of variation here. Okay, 97%. Any last stragglers? All right.
Alrighty, so now that you've figured out your passion for what area of research you want to do, your next goal is to kind of look into finding a potential PI. And for those who don't know, a PI means a principal investigator, and they're the main professor that heads the lab and deals and like does a lot of the experiment building and stuff like that. So that they're basically the head of the lab. So one of the first things that you can do to look for a professor that you want to work with would be to look in the college faculty pages. So more often than not, what you're going to find is that in your department of interest, there's going to be a bunch of professors that are doing research, and they're going to have a very small description of what their research is. So if you're looking into microbiology research or organic chemistry research, they're going to have a small description, like for example, if they focus on, let's say, biological synthesis, or if they focus on bacteria or something like that. And you can use these descriptors to help rank to the professors that you want to potentially work with. So what I recommend is to have an Excel spreadsheet and just jot down professors that you might be interested in working with. And once you've done that, sort of look deeper into the professors. So look into their abstracts, look into sort of what the research entails, and make a list of roughly 10 to 11 professors and rank them from rank 1 to 10 or 11. And ultimately, your goal is to have a list of professors that you can contact one by one from rank 1 to rank 11 and see if they're willing to talk to you about their research and if they have openings for potential undergrads to join their labs. And so for those of you who are at the University of Florida, we have great undergraduate research advisors through the Center for Undergraduate Research. They have excellent advisors that they give peer advising through Zoom because of the pandemic, and they will give you opportunities to find research mentors. They have access to spreadsheets of different professors that are looking for research, and they can also help you develop a table, a list of researchers that you can contact in order to get into their lab. And they not only provide advising, but they also provide resources for scholarships that you can apply for that will get you in contact with a professor for potential research. So one example is the Emerging Scholars Program, which is for freshmen and sophomores who do not have research experience, but it's a great way for those who are freshmen and sophomores to get involved with research. And the Center for Undergraduate Research can provide advice on how to apply for that and look into research opportunities in that way. Another way to find research is to reach out to your community. So your community can be consisting of friends, faculties, and more. And something that we mentioned before is you can just go up to your class professor, because more often than not, you're going to be taking a class, let's say in organic chemistry. And if you just go up to them and ask what their research is, they can talk to you about their research. They can put you in contact with other PIs who do similar research. And they just provide you with a point of contact to get into a research lab of your interest. Another person that could be very helpful is your college advisor, because they also have many connections to many resources that you can utilize. And you can also be on the lookout for professors who advertise online if they're looking for any sort of undergraduates to help in their research. For example, just recently, there is a professor in the pediatrics department at the Shands Hospital that's looking for undergraduate researchers. And you look for these opportunities through the pre-health listserv or on the chemistry listserv, or just looking through social media or emails and just looking for any sort of resources that can help you get in contact with a person who is extremely helpful to get started in a research lab. And so for those of you who are undergrads at the University of Florida, our team has put together a research directory, which consists of researchers from a variety of different disciplines. So this consists of researchers from the microbiology department all the way down to engineering and material science. And we've compiled a small description for all of these professors. So we've decreased the amount of work that you guys have to do to look for professors who are doing research. And so I think this is a great directory that you can use that will provide to you after this presentation is over, for you guys to look through and sort of pick up professors that might be someone they might be able to look into and get in contact with. And don't worry if you're not a University of Florida student, because you can look into doing REUs, which are research experience for undergrads during the summer. So you can actually contact professors during the summer who are also look for undergrads for the research lab. And this is a great directory to sort of get in contact with those professors. And so to end this with a question, so what is something that you look into for a professor? So what is something that's important? Is it their personal interest in their work? Is it the workplace environment? So please fill out this poll, and thank you so much.
So it's looking so far like there's a winner. You guys are very much liking that the research, your personal interest in their research. We have 85% voted, so any stragglers? All right, interesting part is none of you put prestige of the lab. So I guess that showed you guys are passionate about doing research that you're interested in.
All right, to sort of bounce off of what Daria was just saying about reaching out to professors to work in their labs over the summer, I'll be talking about REUs for a bit. So as we said before, REU stands for Research Experience for Undergraduates. These are summer programs that allow you to conduct research with faculty at other universities. So there are many benefits to these programs, the first of all being you get research experience. You can learn new skills for designing and conducting experiments, analyzing data, presenting the results you get, and you may even get your name on a publication afterwards. At a different institution, you'll be able to meet new people and work in different environments than you're used to. This can help expand your network and expose you to new perspectives, which is really important in research. You'll also get to learn more about research after undergrad, not only from working with grad students in your lab, but many programs will have seminars specifically to give advice about applying to and attending grad school. Sometimes you'll even get to attend and participate in conferences over the summer to really immerse yourself in the culture. Finally, REUs are a short-term commitment. Most programs are around 8 to 10 weeks long. This is plenty of time to learn from the experience, but you don't have to worry about feeling like you're stuck in a position if it's your first time researching or if you just decide that type of research isn't really for you in the long term. Now, speaking of finding research that's right for you, it's fairly easy to find REU programs to apply to. You can simply Google name of the field REU 2021. But at this link here, you can browse through REUs connected to the National Science Foundation. Now, this is really nice because they're all located in one place. You can filter by specific fields. They have everything from chemistry to biology to marine science, all sorts of different fields. Now, one thing to consider when you're choosing REUs beyond the topic of interest is location. Is there somewhere that you've always wanted to visit? Is this a city that you can picture yourself living in for an entire summer? Is there a specific university that you want to scope out for grad school? Maybe make some connections there beforehand. You should also consider the specific costs and rewards of each program. So is it a paid position? Is housing provided? Or are they going to pay for your travel to get there? You need to make sure that all of that is also a good fit for you to make it really worth your while to go. Now, there are a lot of factors to consider, so make sure to set aside plenty of time to figure all of this out. Most applications open by November or December, so some are open now already, and they close around February or March, though those deadlines vary between programs. We're coming up on winter break soon, and that's a really good time to compile a list of programs, start gathering materials that you'd need to submit, like rec letters, transcripts, written statements, just to make sure you have a plan set up for how to get everything done on time. So this is me. In my own experience, I was feeling pretty discouraged looking for research at UF during my freshman year, and a senior in my major recommended applying for REU programs. I applied for about 5 different programs, and I was accepted to this one at the Princeton Center for Complex Materials. One thing that I would say on that is that when you apply, be as specific as you can with your personal statement and the questions that they ask on the application about your research interests, your goals. Because I was comparing my old applications recently, and my Princeton app was just so clearly more descriptive than the other ones that I wrote, and that definitely seemed to have acted in my favor. They will also match you to a project based on that information. So being specific about all of that information that you share can help you get a project that you're really passionate about. During the program, I did about 40 hours of research per week. I went to lab meetings and at the end presented my work at a few poster sessions. My program also held weekly seminars on various topics related to research and grad school, took us on day trips to places like Universal Display Corporation, which is a really good networking opportunity. And they also gave me housing and a stipend, which I really appreciated. The experience gave me a lot more confidence going forward into new research positions. I was able to build relevant skills both in and outside of the lab, gave me a better idea of what I did or didn't like about research, so then I knew what to look for in future positions. This past summer, as a bonus, the grad student I worked with reached out to add me as a co-author on a publication, which was not expecting at all, but was really excited about, obviously. So that can show that those connections that you make and the benefits you get from the programs can last even years after you leave. This is all just in my personal experience, but these opportunities can be found in many other programs. I have a couple in the next slide. Now, you'll need to do all of your own research through Google and the NSF site we linked earlier to find the best programs for you, but here are a couple examples of RAUs opening for applications this month. Please note that these details may be subject to change due to COVID-19 developments, so keep an eye out on their websites for updates. This first one is the Clean Energy Bridge to Research program at the University of Washington. It focuses on topics related to solar, energy storage, and grid technologies, set to open for applications on December 14th, with deadlines leading up to February 12th. The second one is Boston University's Chemistry RAU. It covers a broader range of topics within the field of chemistry, and it should be open hopefully starting today, with deadlines leading up to March 1st. And to follow that up, we have another poll for you. Are you likely to apply to an RAU within the next 2 years? And feel free to share your reasoning for why or why not in the chat box.
So it seems like only a couple of you aren't a fan of an RAU. A lot of people seem excited about it. A few people are unsure. I know I did an RAU after my freshman year, and I found it a very rewarding experience to find out what I did and didn't like. And so here you guys go. Here's your results. So pretty positive, a lot of people unsure. Hope this presentation has clarified some of your doubts.
All right, moving on to our last section of presentation. We're just here to briefly encourage you all to be open to change and changing your path in the field of science. So a couple notes on change. You may find that the path you're on is not for you, and we want to reiterate that this is okay and expected. It's never too late to change your paths and to find your true passion, and we highly encourage that you always remain open to changing your path, and if you find that you don't like something, to do something else. And so even if you do like what you're working on at the time, passions most likely change over time. You can and are always welcome to find research in a new lab, and any good PI will be happy to support you as good mentors want you somewhere where you're happy as well as learning. Additionally, if you decide that you don't want to continue research, that's okay too. We want you to keep in mind that the skills that you have learned are highly marketable on any sort of resume or for any other experience that you may be after. They include planning experiments, technical writing skills, as well as workplace experience and critical thinking and problem solving. So don't think that any time you spend doing research is necessarily wasted, because even if you choose not to continue, you can apply all the skills that you learned in other fields. Yes, it bolsters your resume. And so just a quick question to reiterate, do you guys see yourself working in the same field for the rest of your life or not?
Also, the very immediate answers were heavily yeses, but things are skewing different ways now. All right, we have a 92% in. I know it's kind of a stressful question, thinking about your whole future career, but so a lot of people aren't sure.
So it is a stressful question, and that's the point. And so I really appreciate that most of you answered unsure or no, because it shows that you guys are remaining open to change and the possibility of switching or possibly finding something that you're really passionate about and sticking with for the rest of your life. All right. So up next, we have a couple of interviews we collected with some PIs at the University of Florida to briefly go over their research and how they found research positions that they're interested in. So these interviews were edited because they were significantly longer. But at the end of our presentation, most likely tomorrow, we'll be sending out an email with links to the full presentations as well as these condensed versions. So don't worry if you don't catch it all. Additionally, we'll be providing the emails for all of our interviewees, so that way you can contact them with any questions that you have. Yes, thank you, Daria. He did a wonderful job editing these for us. So what's your name and position?
So my name is Yusen Ding. I'm an associate professor of medicinal chemistry, and I came to UF in 2013.
Perfect. And can you describe your research area in some basic terms?
Yeah, so my research basically is focused on how to find bioactive molecules from nature. So Nature Mother is amazing, and people always consider it as the best organic chemists because we always like to see some beautiful small molecules. And nature always give us some surprise how the creative and they can produce some molecules. So we'll try to learn the principles nature uses to create these molecules, and also use these molecules for our imaging and unmet societal need.
Thank you. And so how would you say that you found your passion for your research topic?
This is really a long journey. I grew up in the village, so everything I contact basically the natural environment. So I'm very familiar with the natural environment and amazed about natural environment. And when I attended the college and in China, and I fortunately met a group of great scientists that work on something related to natural products. So that is small molecules produced by organisms we can find in nature. And in this case, it's something available from plant. The plant produce large quantities of the bioactive molecules, some things that we currently use. For example, coffee, right? You probably, some people drink the coffee and that is something can keep you awake, right? So that's great molecules. And the question is how nature make them? What is their functions? And whether we can use these molecules and help us to do something better. So that is the questions I have when I started my undergraduate research.
Perfect. And so you kind of already went into this, but when did you realize your passion for research?
Yeah, so that is pretty much during my undergraduate research. So in China, some case you need to write a thesis about your research, which is something I did. So in that case, I did organic synthesis, purification, and also inject the stuff to the animal or to see the potential effect there. So pretty big spectrum of the research topic, but I learned a lot from that. And also, I really, to be honest, my initial interest in research topic is organic chemistry. From organic Orga 1, Orga 2. And there's so many amazing reactions that can convert very simple small molecules like building block to very complex stuff. And how you can control that by designing different reaction routes and different conditions. So that is always amazing to me. And that's how I can start how I started my research career.
Thank you. That's great. When you're looking for an undergraduate researcher, what are some traits that you are searching for?
This is a good question. So very often I'm very passionate about undergraduate research training. So you probably know over the past 7 years, we train probably close to 40 undergraduate researchers already. And I always try to provide opportunities to them. But there's one thing I'm always looking for is what do you want to do? I hope to find out, or at least encourage an undergraduate researcher to think about what do you want to do. If you want to spend time, you want to gain something from this experience, right? So if you have the purpose, you will learn more and directly. So in this regard, it's okay if you don't have experience on the certain research topic. That's completely okay. But you have the curiosity to learn something. You have some desire to become something. That's the two most important characters I'm looking for.
Yeah, thank you. And then our last question today is, what advice would you give an aspiring researcher to help them find their passion?
So I always say, always keep it like a curiosity, always care about something, why they can do these things, what make this, and what we can learn from this. And as a human being, we always want to make something better. And whether we learn something can really help us to achieve this goal.
All right, so that was our first presentation from Dr. Yisong Ding, and we're going to be moving to the next one from Dr. Robert Vandermeer. And what's your name and your position?
My name is Robert Vandermeer, and I'm the research leader of the Imported Fire Ant and Household Insects Research Unit with the United States Department of Agriculture here in Gainesville, Florida.
Perfect. And how would you describe your research area in basic terms?
Well, I study the behavior and associated chemistry of the imported fire ant and other invasive ant species.
Great. And so how would you say that you found your passion for your research topic?
Well, that's a long, circuitous route, for better or for worse. You know, sometimes it's like that. Some people know exactly what they want to do right away and go zooming right to it, but I sort of waffled around and finally found it.
So connected to that, when did you realize your passion for research?
Research. Well, probably that developed most when it's more independent and like in the Fiji Islands. That is when things really focused, where I was 100% on my own. There was very little support, so I had to make something happen in a situation where it was not easy to make things happen. So I was able to get enough preliminary results to get grants from the Fiji Islands to do the work on the beetle. So that was all very good. And it was somewhat helpful to the group that was working on the virus for the for biocontrol of the beetle. And I should point out that that virus, when they got it to work with the self-inoculation process, it became the poster child for classical biological control. That virus knocked those beetles out. I was peripherally involved with them, but it was a great story. So when I was first in Fiji, the beetles were everywhere, very plentiful. By the time I left, they were getting hard to find. So that was a great story in terms of biological control. And I'm happy that I was there to be a little bit of a part of that. But that is where I became passionate about. And I saw that my education, which was hard science education, but all along, I had a love for animals. It's not like I was anti-animal. It was so I was able to apply these hardcore science mindset to biological problems, which I think is a unique thing. And as a consequence, I think I've been successful primarily because of that.
And so another quick question is, what do you look for in an undergraduate researcher?
Well, certainly some of those same characteristics, right? We want to have students that are inquisitive. We want students that are not afraid to ask questions. They have to ask questions. That's the way you learn. They have to ask questions. You have to ask questions of what you're working with, right? With the ant. You have to ask that ant questions and then try and get the answers out. So that's the main thing. You have to be inquisitive, ask questions, and be as efficient as you can.
And our last question is, what advice would you give to an aspiring researcher to find their passion?
Well, everybody is different. And like I said at the beginning, some people go directly to what they're going to be passionate about from graduation from high school right to it. Maybe it's being a doctor or something, but other people take a long time to make that circuitous journey to where they really feel like they want to be. So there's no set path. You just have to be open. You have to be open to opportunity. I think That's one of the main things. You have to not be stuck with blinders. You have to have your eyes open. Yeah. So one good example of that is, there's one peptide that's called PBAN. That's the pheromone biosynthesis activating neuropeptide. And so PBAN is associated with the production of sex pheromones in moths. And interestingly, people get stuck on those two things, PBAN and sex pheromone. We found by opening up our eyes that PBAN was only 4 letters, and that's all it really was. Actually, the PBAN was involved with multiple things in every stage of every life stage of the moth that we were working with. So if you get blinders on, no matter what you're looking at, then you're going to be in trouble. So you got to try to. There's something you have to work at, keeping your eyes open.
All right, so that was Dr. Vandermeer, and I mentioned in the chat, and I'm not sure if some of you picked it up, but I recommend watching his full interview. It's really interesting because he talks about his experience teaching the Fiji Islands. He mentioned it was really rewarding when one of his students decided to become a teacher and continue his legacy. And then he also mentioned that the flip side of that is one of his students decided to stage a coup against the Fiji government. So it's really interesting to see these life experiences that these PIs have had. All right, and so we have one more really short interview, and so it's from Dr. Prentice, who is an analytical chemist. I think a lot of you may have had him for analytical chemistry. He's a really great guy, so I'm excited to introduce this opportunity to listen to him speak. First of all, can you just give us your name and your position?
So my name is Professor Boone Prentice. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Chemistry at the University of Florida.
Perfect. And so what's your area of research in basic terms?
So I'm in the analytical division, and I would classify what we do as bioanalytical chemistry. And I can go into more detail if you want, but in general, that's kind of the overarching topic that we research. So our lab mainly uses an analytical instrument called a mass spectrometer, which allows us to measure the molecular mass of analytes that we're interested in very precisely and accurately. And these include things like lipids, metabolites, proteins, a lot of biomolecules. And in particular, we use the mass spectrometer as an imaging technique. So we make a series of mass spectrometric measurements across a tissue section from an organ like a liver, a pancreas, a brain. And that allows us to study the distribution of these molecules in the tissue. And then in collaboration with biologists and clinicians, we study those changes in lipid distribution, protein distribution, even pharmaceutical compounds in different disease states. So how does the lipid distribution change in a pancreas that is affected with diabetes versus an unaffected pancreas? Or how do protein regulations get perturbed, these distributions get perturbed in cancer or infectious disease? And then by understanding the biochemical distributions, we can start to infer what biochemical pathways are involved in disease and in treatment. So hopefully to allow us to develop better therapies. So that's kind of the applied version. And then as an analytical lab, we develop instrumentation and methodologies to make those measurements more precisely, accurately, with better spatial resolution and more sensitive.
So our next question is, when did you realize your passion for research? And you kind of already covered that, but is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would say I think I really found a passion for research as an undergrad. That's when I first did research. And again, I said it was electrochemistry research. So it's not even what what I ended up doing in grad school or what I'm doing now. But just kind of being exposed to the kind of exploratory side of research and using the scientific method to make new discoveries and new insights into whatever you're doing, I thought was really exciting. And as an undergrad, probably I think my freshman summer, the summer after my freshman year was when I first did research. And I just thought that was really exciting, kind of to be able to independently direct and try and find new discoveries.
Perfect. And so when you're looking for an undergraduate researcher, what are some aspects that you're kind of like looking for in them?
Yeah, I tell undergrads who ask me that question, I think the most important thing as an undergraduate researcher is to show enthusiasm and a willingness to work hard. You know, I think most undergraduate students don't have prior research experience, and professors aren't expecting that. But what they do want is someone who's excited to work on what the professor is working on, excited to work in their lab, willing to, you know, be enthusiastic and work hard and learn new things. You know, the knowledge and the creativity and the skills will come, but that kind of that curiosity, excitement, enthusiasm, willingness to work hard, you know, that's something that hopefully is kind of innate in someone who's interested in research.
Thank you. And finally, what advice would you give to an aspiring researcher to help them find their passion?
I would say get involved early and often. You know, as soon as you can, try and join a lab. You know, even as a freshman, you know, when you don't have necessarily a lot of lab skills, a lot of chemistry courses under your belt, that's okay. Get involved in a lab as soon as possible. And if that experience is not one that you want to continue pursuing, that's okay. You know, change it up and go find another experience. You know, there's a reason that there's so many different labs doing research, is because there's so many different flavors and types of research for everyone. So get it, you know, just by being exposed to the research endeavor, being exposed to a research lab is really valuable. And then you'll learn things that you like, things that you don't like, and you'll be able to kind of hone in on what you're truly passionate about through those kind of multiple experiences throughout your undergraduate career. Yeah. And just be persistent too. I would say that, you know, just because, you know, one professor doesn't have space in his lab or her lab for the student to work in, don't let that discourage you. You know, keep asking, you know, other folks, or, you know, in the chemistry department or elsewhere, if they have opportunities for undergraduate research.
All right, so that was our last interview with Dr. Prentice. All right, so in summary, we discussed finding your passion, which includes exploring various avenues and asking yourself introspective questions to determine what your interests are, as well as looking at faculty researchers, mainly using college faculty research pages, and also encouraging you all to read their research. That way you can ask specific questions about it when you meet them, hopefully tomorrow at Molecular Mixer. Anyways, so we also covered REUs, or research experiences for undergraduates, which are a great way to develop your resume, and they represent many opportunities offered across the nation. Last but not least, we want to encourage you all to remain open to change and/or switching labs. And a quick note, we're going to send you all an email, and we're going to have some resources that our team compiled to help you all find research that you're passionate about. This is going to include our research directory, which is about 30 pages, and it lists out all of the chemistry and chemistry affiliated, so engineering as well as microbiology and agriculture professors at UF who are conducting research, their area of research, and links to their website as well as their emails so you can contact them. And we also have all the questions that Jordan presented for us in the introspection portion of our presentation. So that way you all can take a look through it and focus on answering them for yourselves. And we also created a little BuzzFeed style quiz, which will ask you some questions and match you to areas of science that we think are compatible for you to pursue research in. It's just to encourage you guys to think about areas that you could research in that perhaps you haven't considered before. I personally didn't even know medicinal chemistry was a field until I began researching in it. So we want to encourage you guys to look beyond what you know and hopefully match you with something that you could find interesting. All right. Without any further ado, do any of you have any questions? You can type in the chat, you can unmute yourself. Just know that this is a recording, so if you don't want to be seen or heard, please use the chat function and our team will do our best. If you don't feel comfortable asking questions here, feel free to email them to ufchemistryclub@gmail.com or ufchemclub@gmail.com, and we'll also be happy to answer them there. If you joined late and didn't do the sign in, please fill that out. If someone could resend it one last time so that way they don't have to scroll through the chat, that would be great. Yeah, thank you all. Let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's your question?
So for those of you that have already done research, how do you manage like having like if you have a part-time job on top of like school with research?
So I can pop in and kind of answer that. When I did research, I did it as like a 9 to 5 thing, so I didn't have to balance that. But something you can do is be really clear with your professor about what your limitations are. Like if you have a work schedule, basically say like within those hours, I cannot be here and I do need time to sleep. And be very clear at the beginning about how many hours per week you are willing to work. What you can also do, one of the chemistry club officers last year, what happened was he realized that having a part-time job and research was a little much. So he went to his professor and asked if there was any way that they could allocate funding towards paying him. And his professor agreed to it. So his part-time job was doing research. I'm not going to say that happens every time. A lot of labs just don't have that extra money, but it is something that is an opportunity. There are also some labs who pay all of their undergraduates. So it just kind of depends on what you find.
All right, thank you.
So if you do plan on having a part-time job along with research, you can also, in order to help balance it, you can create a schedule on like a calendar and try to stick to that schedule. So plan out like how many hours per week you want to give to research and how many hours you want to give to your part-time job, and try to stick to it as much as possible. So it helps you remain organized and sort of allocate certain hours during the week for studying and then certain hours for your job and then certain hours for your research. And so in that way you can remain organized, because I think that will be very, very important if you plan on doing all three of those things throughout the semester.
And to answer Charlotte's question, she asked, what's the typical range of hours per week? So it can vary wildly. And so that's something that you should discuss with your PI before agreeing to join their lab, how much you feel comfortable with. I don't have an assigned range that I have to work per week, but I typically do maybe about 10 hours a week. I think that's about standard, maybe 15 if you have a higher degree of commitment. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's pretty good. So another thing is so for my lab personally, we do have like a set hours. Before the pandemic, we had a set number of hours we had to reach per week. And if you do that, when you organize your schedule, I highly recommend giving big chunks of time to research instead of splitting it into 2-hour blocks, because many of the experiments require preparation beforehand and they require analysis afterwards. And so instead of going to lab, let's say your lab requires 10 hours per week, instead of going 2 hours each day, split it into like 5 hours, 2 days a week. And so not only does that open space for other stuff throughout the week, but it also gives you more time in the lab, and it gives you enough time to do any sort of experiments and talk to your mentor or PI, whatever you need to do. And so highly recommend like making bigger chunks of your time for your hours per week.
For sure. And so I know a lot of us don't have the liberty of choosing exactly when our classes are, because sometimes you get what you get. But the best thing that you can do is try to keep a day free for research. PIs really like it when you can devote a whole day to research. So I think typically Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that's because a lot of experiments, they require setup in the early morning and then maybe a couple like 6 hours of running time. And then you have to do analysis afterwards, like Daria mentioned. And so it's not that you'll be working that whole giant like period of time, because generally when you perform an experiment, there's some downtime. And so you can use that time to read papers, or if your PI is okay with it, you can do your own work. So it's pretty flexible though. I guess it also depends on your position, because if you work in a dry lab, especially because of COVID, that's kind of what a lot of you will probably be starting with, is bioinformatics research, because it can be done remotely. So that's also a lot more flexible. So if you need a higher degree of flexibility in your schedule, I recommend focusing on research that you can do from home and that doesn't require lengthy experiments. Any more questions?
Well, I'll pop in with a quick plug. So tomorrow at 6:30, we are having a research mixer. So for UF students, we are having a mixer on hopin.com. And essentially, there are like little breakout rooms where you can go and talk to professors and researchers in different departments. So you can talk to them and actually interact with them. they can talk to you. It kind of lets you network with them, gets your foot in the door. So then you can meet a lot of people doing a lot of different types of research, figure out what you'd be interested in. And also, it's a really great opportunity for you to be able to email them and be like, hello, I've met you, we've talked. I thought you were super interesting. I'd love to work with what you're working on, stuff like that, with reaching out to them, which makes it a little bit more personal and easier than just like emailing someone who you've never seen before. So it's a really good opportunity. So if you guys are interested, it'll be all over our social media. You guys should have gotten emails about it as well. But wow, any more questions?
One thing that I wanted to say really fast is, in light of COVID, I know a lot of you are still trying to find labs because you're new and haven't necessarily had the chance. And so one thing that I would encourage is when you're contacting PIs to mention that you're flexible to start later, maybe a semester later in the year as things begin to sort themselves out, hopefully. So you may not be able to get opportunities right away because a lot of labs aren't letting undergraduates into their labs to reduce the lab capacity. So that way the graduate students can continue their work. However, don't get discouraged by this. And if you get denied, I recommend that you ask if it would be possible to continue research at a later time in the same lab.
No, I think that's a really important point. As an undergraduate, let's say you do get COVID and you have to be out of the lab for a month. That, of course, like what you're focusing on is your health and quarantining and stuff like that. But it means also for every graduate student in that lab, there's a good chance they're going to have to quarantine. And their experiments that they've been doing for months or years may not survive a month without them there. So it's inconvenient and scary for you, but for them, it could put their graduation and their PhD back for a year or more. So a lot of researchers, a lot of labs are very aware of that danger. And so they either are not accepting undergraduates right now, or they are very limiting them. They're, as Olivia said, having them do more computational things where they'd be doing more analysis or modeling rather than having you right there in the lab. So I think it's important to where if you do reach out to a couple people, specifically this semester, and you get rejected, not to get too down on yourself about that. Because right now is a rough time to be kind of entering the research pool, just as far as labs accepting anyone.
Yeah, and like you said, don't get discouraged. And also want to encourage you guys to attend our presentation on Thursday, where my good friend Hala will be talking about how to contact professors, how to reach out to them, and then also giving you guys some tips to deal with the inevitable rejection, which is unfortunately part of the research life, but it's never anything personal. But
yeah, I have sneak peek of that presentation. I know a lot of times we hear just, oh, reach out to a professor. But when you're actually sitting down trying to write that email, it's really intimidating and you don't really know what to say and what exactly needs to be in there. And so there's a very comprehensive presentation on exactly what needs to be there, how to come off your best, and also how to interview well, and kind of just general interview things that I think are very worth your time to watch, because those skills can transfer to anything you're applying for in the future, but also specific things for this kind of science community and for working in a laboratory.
perfect. Does anyone have any additional questions that they'd like to ask us about research? It doesn't even have to be related to the presentation.
There was somebody earlier, I don't remember who it was very early on the presentation, that was asking about how to find a mentor, because some of us were mentioning like, oh, I found this position from a mentor, I got advice from my mentor. So in terms of finding a research position, I recommend talking to older students in your department. That's how I found a lot of mine. I also talked to a chemistry professor, like I mentioned, to get more advice on how to reach out to professors for research, what professors in the department I might have interests whose research interests match mine that I might like to work with, those types of things. A lot of clubs have mentorship programs built into them, like Chemistry Club does. I had mine from Material Advantage, the Materials Science Society. So definitely check those out, especially if you're newer to UF. And then in terms of mentorship while you're doing research, most PIs will match you with a grad student or just an older student in the lab that has a lot more experience to show you the ropes, train you on all the different techniques you'll need to use, help you get started on whatever project you're working on. And just generally, they can help you get advice about grad school if that's something you're interested in, and a lot of other topics. And yes, like Rebecca said, you can also join Chem Club's mentorship program. We'll be opening applications at the start of next semester again.
Any more questions? Oh, is anyone familiar with the equipment necessary for, oh, I'm not, sorry, Ian.
A semi-related Chemistry Club plug would be Chemistry Club does have a Discord server, and we do sometimes get random questions about, I know Daria is always answering things about people and their questions about research. Jackie just sent the link in the chat, bit.ly/chemdiscord. And so you could send in there, and it's a group of 100 or over 100 students, all either studying chemistry or passionate about chemistry, and they might very well have any information about the equipment necessary for reductive animation with formalin. So that is a good resource to connect with people with shared interests.
So we've also had a lot of people in there asking questions about like classes and stuff, and also asking general questions about how to find research opportunities. So in addition to all the resources we're giving you guys this week, we will also, all of us will be in that Discord server, a lot of other people, sort of lumping together all of our experiences to be an additional resource for you.
Well, anyhow, the coordinators of this workshop and I, as VP, just hanging around, we will be in this call until everyone else is gone. So if there's any lasting questions, you can stay on the line. But otherwise, well, thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, I hope you guys all have a lovely evening and good luck finding research.